The press coverage matters, and Matt Lewis, what's your reaction as somebody on the conservative side to see the likes of Frank Rich saying Obama's handling of this oil spill threatens his presidency?
Well, I think, first of all, it's about time. I mean, the press has loved Barack Obama, and I do think that one interesting thing about this is actually the way that the press is going about criticizing him. If this were George W. Bush, the narrative would be, he's mean, he hates animals, he's evil. Instead, yeah, but what the press is doing now is saying that Obama cares too much. He's too trusting. He's actually too trusting of the smart people in the room, so it's more of a stylistic thing. But the truth is that the press likes to make caricatures out of people. So George H.W. Bush was a wimp. Bill Clinton was a philanderer. George W. Bush was a cowboy. And Barack Obama is in danger of becoming Spock.
By the way, Bill Clinton was a philanderer, as we found out during his presidency. Julie Mason. You know, it strikes me that Barack Obama has never in his career, even when he was in Chicago, cultivated allies in the press. Maybe he didn't need to do that. And it's funny, Chuck Todd of NBC told me he thinks Obama has disdain for the press. So now that he's hit this rough patch, he's got few cheerleaders left.
It's really true, Howard. And at the White House, in the briefing room, you can feel how the tide has turned. Everyone, the press corps came in, giving him the benefit of the doubt. The honeymoon period was very short. And this old story about how the press loves Obama, that's over. They're all critics. We're all frustrated theater critics at the White House, right? But this is important. And David hates optics, but part of leadership is showing that you care, that you understand.
And speaking of that frustration, I think we have seen some of that in the press conference the president held, his first one in 10 months as a full-fledged, East Room affair, I might add. And also this week at one of Robert Gibbs' press briefings, we have assembled some of the questions that the White House correspondents have asked, and let's take a look at that now.
Yet, how do you explain that there were more than 5 weeks into this crisis and that BP is not always doing as you're asking?
How can you say that everything that can be done is being done with all these experts and all these officials saying that's not true?
Can you respond to all the Katrina comparisons that people are making about this with yourself?
Have we really seen rage from the president on this? I think most people would say no.
I've seen rage from him, Chip. I have.
He's seen rage. Is the press convicting the president of insufficient anger here?
Well, I think they are. And I've been from the beginning, a critic of some sort, saying that I don't think he does lead in that fashion. He doesn't show empathy, but I think that's
that is important.
And I think it's important. I don't think it's a major thing. The president often says, I am fighting for you. He said this in health care. He said this in financial reform. He now says, I'm fighting for you and trying to clean this up. But when you say that, you have to show people that you're fighting. And often, that can be pounding the podium, but it also can be the policy. Announcing a criminal investigation.
But it's the journalists who are pounding the podium saying that he is not in touch, because everybody's mad and frustrated about this, and he doesn't appear to share that.
I'd like to see him do it with solid, sharp policies that he talks about in a fighting manner.
Before I go to you, Matt, let's take a brief look at the president on Larry King this past week when he was asked this question about why is he not mad.
Are you angry at BP?
I am furious at this entire situation, because this is an example of where somebody didn't think through the consequences of their actions.
He says he's furious, but he doesn't look furious. That's not the Obama style.
Well, it's not. And the interesting thing is Barack Obama was the first liberal Democrat that sort of was elected in the modern era who didn't have this capacity to emote. I mean, Bill Clinton was an anomaly. But if you look at Democrats who've lost, John Kerry, Michael Dukakis, Barack Obama was always in danger of falling to this narrative of being an elite academic who was not in touch with common people.
But why is the press setting this up as a character test, so to speak? I think most people care about what he gets accomplished as opposed to how he performs on TV. Or in the television age, is that an outmoded
There is an argument. During the campaign, Barack Obama gave this great speech. He was criticized for being a good speech maker. I think it was Hillary Clinton who was actually hitting him on this. And he gave this speech where he said, we hold these truths to be self-evident. words don't matter. The point is that words do matter, whether it's Winston Churchill rallying his nation in World War II, Ronald Reagan saying tear down this wall. One of the important jobs that presidents have, and it's not just superficial, is actually rallying Americans together.
And in terms of words mattering, I see a lot of commentators, particularly on your side, talking about Obama's now Jimmy Carter, this is Obama's Katrina. I mean, it seems to me that some conservative pundits who never liked Obama, you feel like the press is catching up, are really using this disaster to pile on.
Oh, sure, and some of it's hypocritical and some of it's just politics, playing politics.
Why is it hypocritical?
Well, you know, first of all, I do think that if this were George W. Bush, it would be worse. And so a lot of Republicans and a lot of conservatives are saying, they beat up on my guy, so I'm going to beat up on their guy, even if it's not fair.
Julie, is the White House pushing back against the press as the coverage has both escalated of this crisis and also turned more consistently negative?
You know, as best they can, and you certainly see that from Robert Gibbs when he was saying, I've seen him express rage. I have. You know, really being, but that they're a little more defensive than proactive about it.
CBS's Chip Reeve reported on the air that reporters who were really hammering Gibbs about this got called into the press office for a scolding about the kinds of questions they were asking.
The questions, and there's lots of nasty grams flying out of the press office to the reporters who are doing some of the tough reporting.
So this is getting personal.
It really is, and they're really on the defensive, but they can't figure out how to do a better job with this.
It's a dysfunctional relationship between the White House and the press corps. You know, each side is trying to get the other to do what they don't want to do. The White House wants easy questions that stay on the message they care about, and the press guys all want the White House to say something that will make news, which is something that they don't want to say. And so this tussle goes on every single issue that comes up. I think now the horrific nature of this episode is so great that I think it's put everybody on edge. I think it's raised the stakes, both the reporters covering it and for the media. I mean, what is the most important thing here? Is it whether Obama is emoting sufficiently? I think that's important, but is it the most important thing compared to what else can be done? What should we be doing about our energy needs, for instance?
Compared to the almost unimaginable ecological damage here, and we were talking before the program began about these pictures of the birds and the pelicans covered in oil that we all see now on the front pages of newspapers on TV, and how that is really just hitting people in the gut.
The economic consequences could just be, you know, massive, not for a year or two, but for maybe a decade or longer.
Speaking of conservative criticism, the president, at the end of that very long news conference, did bring up his 11-year-old daughter, Malia, and she had asked about the spill, and that prompted some mockery on Glenn Beck's radio show. Let's take a listen.
Daddy, did you plug the hole yet? Daddy?
No, I didn't, honey.
Why do you hate black people so much?
The part white, honey.
Now, Beck apologized for that. What's your take on that?
Well, I think
those comedy stylings.
Well, I think he should have apologized. It was, you know, beyond the pale. But I also think that President Obama was unwise to reference that. I mean, first of all, it again harkens back to Jimmy Carter, whose daughter Amy was giving him advice about nuclear policy. He brought that up in a big debate against Reagan.
I was trying to poke fun at it, but in the way that it was.
I think it was beyond the pale.
You know.